Hey there, welcome to another edition of Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Robert Winters.
And I'm Judy Nathans.
And today's December 19th. 2017.
Not many days left.
That's right.
The old 2017.
And though we will talk about some Central Square things in a little while, I might as well start off by mentioning that there's a tree lighting and other kind of caroling and hot chocolate and everything in good old Central Square.
December 21st.
This Thursday, 4 o'clock, right here at Jill Brown Run Park, right adjacent to the Mass Main
It's called the
construction.
Lafayette Square.
Lafayette Square, yeah.
And you can bring, I read you can bring an ornament.
Yeah, and actually Target is donating a lot of ornaments as well.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, good old
I
Central
thought they
Square.
were donating something to eat or something, or is that somewhere else?
So if they aren't, others are.
Well, I'm going to bring some stuff that I have that, since I don't even have a tree,
Anyway,
but yeah.
Yeah, it should be pretty good. So,
Okay.
anyway, other holiday things happening to be sure, but so maybe we start off just doing what we often do, which is do a little bit of a recap of what was a relatively short.
I'm glad because I missed it. I
City
was
council
doing
meeting.
anything, so you will be the reporter.
But kind of momentous because it was the last
of this year, right?
It's the last council meeting of this
the
term.
current
Of the
councilors.
2016-17 city council term.
So 3 goodbyes.
And there were 3 goodbyes. Actually, I was just thinking about it. I think it was after the 2013 election, there were actually 4 goodbyes.
Really?
Yeah, there were 2 people who were leaving and 2 people who were ousted.
All right, don't tell me. Let's see. Well, 2013. One was, I think, Minka?
That's right.
And the other, Sam Seidel? No.
Ken Reeves.
Ken Reeves. Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And also Henrietta Davis and Marjorie Decker had left.
Well, they had left though on their own. Wow, I didn't realize
so
that.
there were 4 new faces come that January, the following
That's
January.
interesting.
So there'll be 3 this time.
3 new faces.
Right, because there were 3 actual vacancies this time.
Right.
And no incumbents.
No ousters.
Yeah.
So at least it starts out on a little nicer level, maybe.
Maybe so. You know, we'll see. I think things are looking good. I think for this particular group, they'll probably settle the mayoral matter on day 1, and everybody's going to be, peace and love shall reign.
Yes, and the inauguration or the ceremony is 10 o'clock on January 1st. Right?
Yeah, it's actually New Year's Day is not a holiday for the city council, so it's a 10 a.m. inaugural meeting on January 1st at City Hall.
So is it normally a holiday? If it doesn't fall on that
state law says it's the first Monday at 10 a.m. of the new year.
And the first Monday isn't necessarily New Year's Day, is what you're saying.
And it just happens to be a Monday this time. So
interesting.
So I've been there for Monday inaugurals.
I only went the first time with you, I think, 2 years ago.
Yeah. No, it's kind of.
So I'm going to try to go because New Year's Day. What else do you do?
No, it's usually a good time. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
So anyway, the last meeting was last night, and it was councilors Chung, Mar, and Mazen, who were the 3 who were exiting. In the audience, just maybe kind of like learning the ropes with the 3 who shall replace them. Right? It's kind of been nice actually seeing the
I would have liked they didn't show up when there was real action going on, but that's okay. I've been seeing them in the last
Yeah. I mean,
of course, you can watch it at home. We don't know who's watching it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I watch it at home.
Yeah. I mean, the people who go up to the microphone aren't necessarily the people who are going to rise to become the political leaders. So.
Oh no. Well, people who go up to the microphone. That's public comment. Let's make that different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I think probably the highlight of the meeting, other than the business items, was that immediately following public comment, they suspended the rules and they did what the traditional presentations, little gift giving.
Gift giving. Oh, who gave gifts?
Well, I think the city council collectively gave out parting gifts to their colleagues.
Nice.
I don't know what the gifts were. Don't care really. It was just a nice gesture. And there were, I think it was Dennis Carlone gave a very, very, very nice statement, speaking on behalf of Councilor Mazen.
Okay.
And then I believe it was Denise Simmons speaking on behalf of Councilor Chung.
Okay.
And then Councilor Toomey speaking on behalf of David Marr.
They probably pre-planned this, obviously.
It was all planned in advance,
you don't just
absolutely.
spur of the moment. No improv here.
Yeah, okay. I don't know that they had any plans that the outgoing councilors were going to give speeches. So certainly the first one with Mazen didn't, but then Leland Chung gave a very nice speech
Like a
that
thing,
kind of
yeah.
went on a while, but it was
Yeah.
good. And then they gave Mazin an opportunity to make a
Yeah,
speech.
sure. And what about David Marr?
And then David Marr did as well at the end. And it was interesting, sort of the parting shots. It wasn't like cast as a kind of, here's my advice to the new council,
No,
but
just what it's
David
meant
Marr
to
did
be
a
and
little
all
bit
that.
though.
Yeah.
Basically emphasizing the importance of constituent services, that it's not always just about, ideology and, an agenda.
Right.
A lot of times what you do, I think what David said was quite accurate. He said oftentimes for most residents, the first time they'll ever seriously interact with the city council is when there's a need. Either they need housing or there was some problem or whatever, and you have to intervene on their behalf. And when people are running as candidates, they don't really emphasize that role.
Well,
but it is a role.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're knocking on their door, it's kind of like you're already starting a process.
Yeah. So
Personalizing this. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not necessarily hearing about their
No.
crisis situation, but you're
I
hearing
bet
their,
in some of those cases
in
they
some
do.
cases I'm sure they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always said candidacy is like a political education, in addition to an attempt to actually get elected.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, so that was quite interesting and actually kind of great actually. And there were a lot of people, David Marr's family especially, extended family were all there. I mean, he had served, I think he was served 8 terms.
He was the long
on the council.
20 years. Is that 8 terms? No.
It's
Well,
16.
No,
16.
he more than that.
He was actually not elected one time, but then he came back on a vacancy replacement when
I didn't know
I
that.
believe when Michael Sullivan left.
Wow.
So
Interesting.
so yeah, he first ran I believe in 1999
Yeah,
or
no, you're right.
2000. Yeah, I think it was
99. You said it in your notes.
Yeah. Right, I think it was Denise Simmons ran in 2001.
Oh yeah, it says it right here. Yep, David Marr, first elected.
Yeah.
That's on your site.
Yeah, and then so 16 terms. That's it. Excuse me, 8 terms for him, 4 terms for Leland Chung,
Wow.
and 2 terms for Nadine
Yeah.
Madison. It was kind of interesting hearing sort of recounting some of their highs and lows and a little bit of advice. So I like that. Now, in addition to the departing councilors, there was actually another rather significant departure coming on January 3rd, which is Sandra Albano, who is the
Alessandra.
yeah. She's been basically the person in the city council office that kind of has makes things run and has for as longer than I can remember going up there. I mean, I've been going up to City Hall now since the 1980s.
Since you were a kid.
She has worked at City Hall for 47 years,
That's
9 months,
amazing.
and she actually read off. It became kind of a running gag. Sandy would say, how long have you had? 47 years, 9 months, so many 9 days.
She started then probably in her late teens or early 20s.
She came to work at the request of Alfred Vellucci, I believe when Al was mayor.
All right. That's a long time
so her roots go back to Al Vellucci, and she was mentioning during the meeting how many. She actually rattled off by first name a very nice long list of all the councillors she's worked with.
Sure.
And it was interesting because there were people then speculating. They were saying like, how many people has she actually worked with? How many councillors has she served with? And the city council age was saying, I think it was 135.
Wow.
Well, anyway, just an hour before before I walked out the door, I actually made a list.
How did you make the list? Based on
Well, I have all the
years?
election results,
Oh.
and when I grabbed all the 9 elected for all years and got rid of the duplicates.
So why is her name there?
Well, because there's basically, she will be exiting on January 2nd.
So you have to include the new council.
And so she actually will be the person putting together the inaugural ceremonies
Oh,
as her last big act
Oh, wow, that's
in charge of the
amazing.
city. So she will actually add another 3 to her
Wow.
legendary
Impressive
list. So there are actually 47 she had worked with, plus these 3 makes 50.
Yeah.
So, and it's really kind of interesting, almost like a little walk through history to actually see all the people from, the new people like Alana Mallon, I won't give them all here, but Barbara Ackerman, David Clem, David Wiley, newer people like Dennis Benson, Danny Clinton was on there. I can't say that I know personally all of these people here, but actually I've met quite a few of them over the years.
Wow.
So
Well,
anyway.
Before my time, like Kevin Crane.
Kevin Crane's still practicing law. You see him sometimes come up.
But what era was that?
I think it was
I didn't
in
move
the
to
70s.
Cambridge till 19.
Yeah.
82.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So anyway, it was
Yeah,
anyway, it
what
was
am I
pretty
talking
great,
about? No,
and you know, so
72.
yeah. So many departures, to be sure. You know, I mean, there's been some interesting other turnover of longtime cities, department heads, like
Sure.
you know, we have police commissioner turnover. We have a new
City manager.
city manager. Louise, you know, came over
before.
during this council term.
Right.
You know, December about a year ago.
And how long had before Rossi?
Bob Healy had been there
Had
for
been there
about
for 20
32 years,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
I knew I think his the former one. I think that's when I moved to Cambridge, which was his boss.
James
Back in
O'Sullivan.
oh no, not James. Somebody else. Was it James O'Sullivan?
Yeah. So.
All right. Yeah.
So anyway, now after all the goodbyes, which were I think I have to say maybe because I'm an old sentimentalist, was my favorite part of the meeting. But there were actually some significant
So
business
that's all
items.
done before the business?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Before the city manager's agenda, before anything else.
Okay.
Right? Now, perhaps you know, it's funny because there's certain things I think of as significant, things that councilors think of as significant, and then we don't always match.
Yeah.
So one of the items that's been sort of waiting to be ordained for a while is actually one fraction of what's called the urban agriculture
The bees.
movement. So they broke off one section that had to do with beekeeping. And that became because there were some zoning changes that were associated, which to me is a little strange, why zoning should have to do with bees, but I understand
they have to
it.
exist in a place.
They have to exist in
and
a place,
places
and
are
there's certain
zones. Okay,
allowed
yeah.
uses and such like
Right.
that. So,
Right.
so the original proposal was, I was going to make a joke, but I'm not going to avoid it. But
Yeah.
anyway, they at the recommendation of the planning board, some of the things that were going to be left to city council authority were left to the Department of Public Health, which I think
Makes
is
sense.
actually makes a lot more
Sure.
sense.
Yep.
So that they'll have a good process, and there was some discussion about it. I think Councilor McGovern especially was concerned that if some neighbor just wanted to say, I don't want no bees next to me, that somehow because there's this board you have to go through to get an okay,
Yeah.
that somehow they can say, I'm sorry, your neighbor doesn't like it, so you can't have bees, and that's not. They promise that's not how it's going to work.
It is
So-
not how it's going to work.
Right.
So butters don't
Yeah.
necessarily have.
And the city manager was actually very clear about this as well, as were the people from the public health department. They pretty much said that you'll have to apply for a permit or whatever to do
To have
this.
hives.
But then the whole public process part is really just to make sure the neighbors are informed, and if there is a legitimate public health reason why it might be a problem, then they do have the authority to not grant the permit.
Okay.
So for example, if somebody if somebody says I have a severe bee allergy, but even Councilor McGovern pointed out that the likelihood you're going to get stung by those bees
I mean,
is
if it's done right, you're
It
supposed to
shouldn't be a
not
problem.
see bees at your level, right?
that's pretty much right. So so there was a lot of reassurance offered that in fact this will not be sort of no bees in my backyard kind of.
Plus, if you have a
phenomenon.
severe allergy, you better be carrying an EpiPen or whatever they do to counter
yeah.
that anyway.
Yeah.
So,
So, and there's some really strong positive reasons why having pollinators around is a good thing for everybody.
People don't realize the importance of bees.
Yeah. So we'll have better homes and gardens,
Well,
as the magazine used to be.
better world.
So anyway, so that was a pretty significant thing, and
So that was ordained because it had a time
not
limit.
surprisingly
Yeah, okay.
ordained 9-0.
Good.
There was another item of zoning nature, which is probably of no consequence to most people, but
Yeah.
the Alexandria properties down around Binney Street, they had filed for a bit of a change in zoning to allow some innovation space in some particular way.
Okay.
Kind of part of the esoterica of it all,
Yeah.
but that could have been delayed into January, but I think everybody saw the wisdom of finishing things off with this term, so that was ordained on a 8-0 vote.
Okay.
And so anyway, so that was all taken care of.
Good.
One thing that was kind of interesting, the meeting kind of very late in the game turned into a big discussion about what is usually just a routine matter, which is sort of, I always call it just cleaning the slate. So
Just the awaiting report.
It's not just that, actually, but that's a piece of it. So it's just like with the state legislature, when a term ends, there are certain things that carry over, and some things die with the, as the term ends.
Right.
For the most part, there were some people during public comment were griping about it, saying how, well, when people have been working really hard on things, it's not fair that things should. But the truth is that things that are still in process, and that people are working on, they don't die.
Yeah.
So there was a real misunderstanding about it.
Yeah.
All it takes is one city councilor to say, "I'd like to keep this one going." Just say it to the city clerk, and it
has
stays.
anyone done that? Oh, we're
Well,
gonna get to that. Okay.
City clerk Donna Lopez says, "Councilor Kelly has already given me a list."
Oh,
right?
of ones on that list.
Of things he wanted to stay to
Okay.
continue into the next term. So all councilors are on notice now, and they heard it in the meeting.
Oh, so they still have another chance to do that.
I think
hasn't
Donna
been-
gives them until
okay.
about January 8th to keep things going. So
Does the new so the new councilors have no input into this?
something I think as a matter of courtesy, and only
Yeah.
because I know the city clerk, if one of the new councilors says, it's really important to me that such and such an item stay here, she'd probably give it due consideration and
Okay.
keep it around.
They
If not, one of the new councilors just ask one of the other councilors to do
Okay.
it. So easy to do.
Yeah.
A lot of the awaiting report, and there's this gigantic list of things that are awaiting reports, some of which
50 items or something?
at least,
Yeah,
and some things
They keep getting
are
raised.
significant,
Yeah.
as I think Saul Tannenbaum often points out there. They're still awaiting some report on whether to proceed with the broadband.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the type of thing where if I was a counselor, I may say, well, that's not something we should just wash away.
No, and it's an ongoing issue, so we should continue it until we get more information or can get more.
Yeah.
Because things are being, I think, researched on
Yeah,
that.
I mean, there are a few on my personal wish list of how the council does business.
Yeah.
First off, I don't think that councilors should just routinely ask the city staff to look into things if they're not really serious about it,
Well, they could be serious about it, but if the whole thing really isn't warrant that much time of staff, I think they just need to step back.
Right. So, and I think the other councilors, what they do almost by tradition, they sort of say, well, as a matter of professional courtesy, if councilor so-and-so asks for has a request that's going to possibly maybe staff time intensive,
Yeah.
everybody goes, okay, and they just approve it.
Yeah.
I think they should maybe scrutinize things a little bit more
Yeah.
and say, well, this is going to take a lot of staff time, and is actually anything realistically going to come of it?
Is it possible,
And then
though,
say
for the
maybe no.
staff who it's being addressed to can come back with a brief thing saying, this is how long this is going to take you?
They need to do that too, I think.
Yeah,
That was the
both
second
ways.
thing I was going to say,
Right,
is that
yeah.
the city manager should probably,
They
not that
need
I
to
want to be telling
prioritize.
Louis DePasquale.
No, but they need to prioritize what's possible and what isn't. in a
Honestly,
way,
we would all benefit, I think, by having the manager just come back with the one paragraph response that says, no, I don't think we're going to pursue
Right.
this one.
This is
soon,
probably
but-
possible, this is the timeline, or something.
Yeah,
Without an answer,
and
but
rather than
with a-
just
yeah.
leave things languishing,
And then
waiting
they
for
keep
reports.
getting put on the table
Yeah.
again, or keep getting crossed out with the dates, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there's
Yes
some,
or no?
sometimes
what it
there's
should be,
some timidity that if the manager
Yeah.
says, well, I'm coming back, we have no interest in pursuing this,
They should
and
say
then
it.
they're going to get into an argument. Well,
No.
I'd rather them get into a little bit of an argument
Exactly,
rather
and
than
keep
just
seeing it,
let it sort of die on
Right.
the vine.
exactly.
So there are some changes that I think would make things work a little bit
Yeah,
better.
no, that makes sense.
I mean, honestly, some of the things that are the asks that were given to the manager, I think I completely understand why, he sort of said, well, I don't know about this, but you should just say, I don't know about this.
Exactly, or
Yeah.
this isn't feasible.
Yeah.
So,
So anyway, those are some changes that,
Okay.
maybe could happen in the new term, and I hope it'll work very
Mm.
well. Actually, one thing, I've spoken with the mayor recently about a rather good practice when you are the mayor and there's something that really matters to you, it's actually a good practice to have somebody else take the chair while you go make your
Oh, yeah, you said that, I think,
impassioned
last week, didn't you?
Yeah.
As
Well,
recommendation to the next mayor. I think
God
you-
bless her, Denise Simmons.
Oh, yeah? She must have watched
She
your show.
said, Mr. Vice Mayor, I'd like to relinquish the chair.
Yeah.
May we exchange seats?
Yeah,
And they did.
yeah.
And then Denise from
And then
Council
say
Government
something
Governance
that
Chair really went on about one particular item on
Okay.
the agenda that really mattered to her.
So she then became sort of just like a sitting councillor versus sitting councillor / mayor.
Right, for that brief period of time,
Yeah.
you put yourself in the role as a.
I think that is a nice physical statement of something.
I think it's a great gesture, and
yeah.
it sort of sets
Right.
a good tone.
Yes.
It's never good practice for a mayor to sort of preach from the
yeah, absolutely.
The front, but anyway, so
You should do
some
that
good
with
things.
Trump.
Yeah, really.
Out of the White House, put him somewhere, and let him
Put him in the outhouse, yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, so those
yeah.
So those are some of the highlights
From last
night's meeting.
Was there a lot of public comment?
There weren't that many people there for it. I think. Oh yeah, actually, that was one other item that's worth, and I'm sure this is going to become a big item for 2018. All right, so back in 2013, actually even before then, there was the disposition of the East Cambridge Courthouse,
right?
Or the Andrew J. Sullivan Courthouse building on Thorndike Street, and that that kind of went into limbo because there were legal challenges from some of the neighbors.
What is it? Is it owned by somebody?
Well, it was county property, but then when the counties were abolished, it became state asset.
Okay.
And then because it was an asbestos-laden building, the state wanted to lose it, and nobody was going to take it unless. Well, I mean, there's a certain process you have to go through. So the Division or Department of Capital Assets Management, DCAM.
Okay.
So they made the property available and people could bid on it. Anybody could bid on it, but the deal was that you had to do the cleanup of the property as a part of the arrangement.
Okay.
Now that's very expensive.
Yes.
And consequently, the development potential of the site has to at least exceed the cost of cleanup and all your other transaction and.
So when was that put out to bid?
That was put out to bid probably, I think it could have been actually 2012 that it was settled. Certainly by 2013, early on.
So who?
It was Leggett McCall.
Okay. And what's the status of that?
Well, it went through various legal challenges, some of which were summary judgment, got rid of almost all.
Legal challenges by who?
Abutters or people with some standing.
Who don't want to see anything there? Or?
There was a certain point of view that said that the building should never have been built, and it was built.
That's after the fact.
But that was the legal point. I don't think the legal argument held much water.
Okay, so.
But they basically said that the building was only allowed to be built to the scale that it was because it was a government building.
Okay.
And then if it's disposed of, at that point it's not a government building.
Therefore there should be limits on height.
So is it grandfathered in? And some people claim there were precedents to argue otherwise.
So is that still then in limbo?
It's all settled now. So
it is settled.
The last domino fell maybe a month or two ago. Judge finally ruled. I don't know why it took as long as it did, but it's done. And so consequently, Leggett McCall is now back. And as part of the arrangement is they need some parking. Now, when it was a courthouse, some of the parking was done in the First Street garage, which is a city asset. So now the question is, should the city asset then be still available for parking for this?
So let me ask something. Is that building not in use at all?
It's not in use at all.
For 5 years it's been empty?
At least for a while the jail was still operational and then eventually the jail closed.
So who maintains the building? Is that Leggett McCall that has to maintain it?
Well, as I said, I don't know exactly who holds title.
Things running around in the building and oh my goodness, I didn't know all that.
Oh yeah. So
they haven't even started any asbestos.
Right, nothing could begin until everything was, all the legal quagmire was cleared.
They must have a lot of money to stay with that holding.
You could hear during public comment there were already some people who had prepared speeches of saying
this
how
coming up,
that in fact we ought to play hardball with them and this shouldn't happen. And so now they're going. But the thing is, they do have the development rights. The law is clear. The planning board had issued this special permit after a lot of legal consideration about
5 years?
What they could and couldn't do. Right. So the planning board had settled. They granted the special permit in 2013. Yeah, I believe it was 2013. And really, they did the only thing that was really plausible at the time. And
so you think they're going to knock down some of that?
it's going to get stripped down to its bones, and
Isn't it the really
they're
tall
gonna,
building behind the old
they're going to
fashioned
take, I think, 4 stories off it.
It's a pretty ugly building.
Yeah, and it'll be a very different building and a different use. So now the thing is so what about the parking? Well, 'cause
Yeah.
you can't really do it without the parking. Well, some people seem to think that by the city blocking the parking or playing hardball, they could somehow drive a seriously hard bargain.
Right.
But the fact is even back in 2013, it was already known that the Galleria Mall people were already going to lease some of the parking from their facility to them. It's not as convenient, it's not as good. The access isn't nearly as good, but it would be available.
Still there, especially an all-day worker if it's a worker.
Yeah, so basically the option isn't so much like you're going to just stop the development.
Right.
By holding up the parking. It's a matter of, do you make a good deal or to get a
Is there any plans for what is going to be there? Have they?
I don't remember though. There was supposed to be like maybe 20 some odd units of housing. Some people had argued for more housing.
Just 20. That means
Well,
it's
it
a
could
lot
change.
of office then.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good office location.
Yeah, I think it is. So
I would hope it's more office than housing. It seems like that's all that's going on.
there were some concerns about people because when it was a courthouse, it wasn't other than the jail, it wasn't really operational at night.
Right.
But if it's filled with startups, then the lights will be on and it'll be active in the evening
retail
time as well.
bottom maybe.
There'll be some retail down on the podium of it as well. So anyway, it's starting to move, and I think with the new council, there's going to be some desire to be able to sort of be good revolutionaries to try and play a little hardball, but ultimately, I think they need to just sort of find a good resolution, and we'll see. But it's going to be a big issue come the new year.
Interesting. I'm glad you mentioned it because I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's coming up. So
we just have the last few seconds. So we'll see you in the next segment in
we'll
about
talk a little bit about
seconds.
some Central Square and a few other developments around town. So see you then on Cambridge Inside Out.
Bye.